right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Digital Dissection, a nerd podcast. Today, we are joined by a very special guest who I actually met a few years ago as my brother and I happened to cross paths. His name is Ben Heck, and if you've heard of him before, he has a YouTube channel called Ben Heck Hacks. He was also host of the Ben Heck Show, as well as podcasts, well, actually the Ben Heck podcast and Sonic Boom. And yeah, he's a Wisconsin native joining us with one of his favorite beers today. Ben Heck, how are we doing?
Well, I don't know if this is my favorite beer because this is a brand new beer that came out today.
Well, I'm interested to hear what kind it is. What have we got going?
Okay, well, it's from New Glarus, which, as you guys know, is only
That's
sold in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's called Gyrator, but it's... Wait, how do you spell Gyrator?
Is it like a
G-Y?
That's gyro, because it's like, you know, that gyrosphere thing, or like I'm thinking gyrator. It's all hips. That's what that thing is.
Yeah,
you know, they didn't go all hops. They went all hips on this drink.
I don't think I've ever spelled out the word gyrate before in my entire life. So I look at this and I wonder, it's like a cross between like a helicopter and a gyro or a gyro. Anyway, there's a picture of a fish on it. Looks like a largemouth bass, and it's a purple label. So I'm going to try it live right now. Okay.
There you go.
All right. So it's a Doppelbock. It's not a dark Doppelbock, which of course is German for double.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. It doesn't have the APV listed on the bottle.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess it's at least a 7.4.
Okay.
Interesting.
So we're not quite to the point where you need to floss after drinking it, but we're probably feeling pretty good after a couple of those.
Oh, I just got the latent. Oh, yeah, it's strong.
Oh, now it's in.
It might be above an 8, actually. Yeah, so what did you guys want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, well, you know, I've had a chance to, you know, witness you in person, but also from afar because, as we mentioned before, your YouTube channel is pretty awesome because, I mean, you're basically
Which one?
like
The old one or the new one?
I mean, the old one is the one that I have kind of followed with.
The corporate one?
Ben Heck Hacks is the one that I.
Oh, that's my personal channel. I mean, I did the Element 14 Ben Heck show on Element 14 for like 8 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was from 2010 to 2008. I'm sorry, 2010 to 2008. Yeah, I went backwards in time. 2010 to 2018. That was my corporate show. But the whole time I had my own YouTube channel from like 2008 where I just put stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, about a year after I stopped doing the show, I started putting my own videos on my own channel again, and that's Ben Heck Hacks. So for new videos, that's where you can find me. Although I only post videos when I feel like it now.
I mean, that's the life. Yeah. I mean, you have no corporate sponsor to say you need a video every 2 days, son. Otherwise, this sweet fat deal is dead.
Every week, yeah. And then to take a week off, we had to bank extra episodes. So.
Whew.
It was quite the, and of course we were building things as well. We weren't just like, you know how half of YouTube is just people reading like otaku articles back into a webcam. Like we were actually producing and building, so it was tough.
Yeah, well, and that's what I think was really cool about your channel because at that point in time, my brother and I, like, we just kind of found you by chance, and we're both pretty big retro gamers. And when I say big, like we were really big dudes back then too. I think we were both about 500 pounds combined, but
physically and enthusiastically.
Yeah,
big.
Yeah, a lot of
literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So you were throwing your weight behind your hobby. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we did, absolutely. but back then though, like, you know, console modding or console modifications, like these weren't really like I don't know, we'll call it mainstream, but I mean, there just wasn't a whole lot of it for us to consume outside of stuff that just happened to escape Japan. And back then,
most of it involved piracy. You know, there wasn't very much altruistic console modding back in like the 90s.
Yes. Which actually that lends to an interesting point too, because you've actually dedicated a good amount of time to making consoles portable. And to your point about that, we actually got our hands on a what was called a Dreamcast, not a Dreamcast, a Dreamcast, which was
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, a portable bootlegged Dreamcast system.
Oh, you mean like from China?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I've heard of that before. Yeah. Yeah. That's when I kind of got my start on the internet. Was I did I think it was Atari. Yeah, Atari 2600. I made a portable version of that. Actually, I still have it here in my office. It's in my office, so my cat doesn't break it. Nice. I don't allow him in here. And that was in 2000. And yeah, so I did a lot of those portables for probably about the first 8 years, and then I kind of transitioned into other things as well. So yeah.
I remember you trying to make a Nintendo 64 portable, and that was just
oh god,
I felt the pain. Through the YouTube channel. Granted, I would have given up as soon as you went to make the RAM like fold over. And the pins and things didn't line up. Like, well, this won't work, so I guess this project shot. Thanks for tuning in. Next time, we're just going to put cheese on a cracker and see if you watch the whole time.
Yeah, the N64 had RAM bus, which was a 9-bit serial bus of RAM, and it required a termination on the end of it, kind of like old SCSI drive used to have. So that's why you had to have the jumper pack in your N64, otherwise it wouldn't boot. That was actually a Terminator block, not like I am the Terminator, but like Terminator from like think like a SCSI drive. I don't know if you guys are that. Well, you seem like you're kind of old school.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we had like the benheck.com forums, the 7letter.com. That's why people started calling me Ben Heck. And we had a lot of people on those forums. It's not active anymore. I mean, the forums are still online actually, because there's still a lot of links to it. But a lot of those guys continue to build portables to this day, and they've made amazing things far beyond anything I've ever done. And we actually had, back in the day, like early 2000s, we had like Adafruit was on there, and Palmer Luckey, the guy who invented the Oculus Rift. Like when he was like a 12. That guy's like not very old at all.
Wow.
Oh wow.
No, he's like really young. I think he was like 19. I think he was like 19 when the Oculus was like a Kickstarter.
No way.
Oh yeah,
that's insane.
He's
good for him.
He's super young. Yeah, so he's a very smart dude. I mean, I know it's a bit controversial, but he's a really intelligent guy. But yeah, so I did that. I started it, but then all these other people have kind of carried the torch, and they're doing. Well, when you bring up the N64, there's people that can like do N64 mods in their sleep. They're way better at it than I am, because I kind of stopped. Basically, my skills in that field atrophied for like the last 12 years because I stopped doing it. I think it's called Bit Built. Do you guys go to MGC here in Wisconsin?
No.
Oh, the Midwest Gaming Classic, the gaming show.
Oh yes. I've been there before. Sorry, I'm horrible with abbreviations.
It's okay. It's okay. So the Bit Built group, which is kind of like the evolution of Mild Forums, they still have a room there every year. So you can go in there and like, they've got like Nintendo Wii's, they've shrunk down into an Altoids tin. It's insane what they've done. Yeah, it's
wow. Yeah.
It's like they bought a bunch of Wii's. I think a Wii is a 4-layer board. It might be 6. And they actually sanded all these PCBs of the Wii, basically destroyed them one by one to look at all the traces so they could reverse engineer the schematics. And then from that, they're able to figure out how to very aggressively miniaturize it. So they actually have it where a battery, what's left of the Wii, a screen, controls, all fits into an Altoids tin. It's nuts what they've accomplished.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I
can't either. Yeah. Confession time. I'm not like a big Nintendo fan, so that's why I don't like try to get good at the N64 or the Wii, because I don't really give a crap about those consoles. But I'm just saying, Bit Built. You guys should check it out. Very impressive stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Wii was a gimmick anyway. We all knew it. It was motion controls fun. But I mean, the thing was, a repurposed GameCube with motion controls.
It was an overclocked GameCube.
Yeah. I was going to say, if anything, Ben, I don't think you need to feel bad about a company that basically lives off of remakes and remasters these days. I mean, I wouldn't feel bad at all. But
I don't feel bad about not liking Nintendo. I'm pretty outspoken about it. I think they basically have a cult following, like Apple. And I mean, I bought a Switch just because all my friends had one. Like jumping off a bridge. And I know there's a lot of YouTubers that just go gaga for it, but it's like BFD, it's a big cell phone. Who cares? I don't know, with really uncomfortable controls. Nintendo kind of lost me, like when they did the Game Boy Advance wasn't backlit.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is so stupid. Like they had backlit PDAs back then. There's no reason to come in backlit. And then lo and behold, a year and a half later, the Game Boy Advance SP, which was backlit with LiPo batteries. So just double, triple, quadruple dip Nintendo.
So, this is part of the background that I was always interested in, Ben, though, like looking at your social media and some of the channels that you have out there. Was always interested about how you got into this. What was your inception point here? How was technology, what was the gateway you went through?
Well, I was really big into tinkering with electronics when I was young, like when I was like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I was going to Radio Shacks. I would get like those what was it? We had the 75-in-1, those kits where you like attach wires to the springs and make circuits. I had one of those when I was like 6 or 7, I want to say, really early on. So even I didn't really understand everything, but it got me excited about electronics, and I would like stick LEDs into light sockets and watch them burn up and smoke. So I was really into that and programming until I was born in 1975. So I was into that pretty hardcore until about 1990. And then I got this stupid phase where I wanted to like make indie films with my camcorder. And that never went anywhere. So that was kind of a waste, although I did learn some things along the way. So that would have been a good chunk of the 90s. But then in 2000, I think I just finished an indie film, like one of my adventure films. And I'm like, I need a new project. And so this buddy of mine, I knew he had like an old Atari 2600 in like this junk room, and we dug it out, and I think I gave him like $1 for it. And that's when I'm like, okay, I'm going to see if I can make this portable, because I want to say I was watching The Green Mile in the theaters, and I was sitting there really bored. I'm like, this movie is so goddamn pretentious. I was so bored during that movie. I loved, what was that? Frank Darabont directed that, and he'd done The Shawshank Redemption. So this was supposed to be like the follow-up to Shawshank Redemption, but I thought it wasn't. I didn't think it was a zit on the ass of Shawshank Redemption, personally. So I'm sitting there watching flies come out of this guy's mouth, and I'm like, God, I'm bored. But I was with friends, right? And I'm like, I wish I had my Game Boy with me. Oh, but the theater's dark. So I started thinking about like backlit game systems. This was, when was that? December 2000 or 1999. That's when that came out. And so that's what kind of got me thinking about portable game systems. And again, would have been between the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance, neither of which are backlit. And then, so I started thinking about it. I went to Best Buy in Madison, and I bought one of those Casio pocket TVs. I think it was like a Casio EV720. Yeah. It was like $150. I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot of money. I could buy 200 gallons of gas with this, or whatever it was back then.
Now, you loaded the batteries into the front of those, didn't you? If I remember those correctly, like didn't the panel off the front come off, and that's where the batteries went?
Yes, because I'm just looking at my office. There's 3 AAs, which runs the screen, and then there's a 9-volt that runs the Atari. And that's a holdover from, I don't know if you saw my video where I attached the batteries to the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, I was in band and choir, so I'm that kind of geek as well. I'm a super geek. There's a couple trips where I actually would like take my Nintendo or my Genesis or both. I can't remember which it was. And I had like an old pocket screen, like a really shitty one, like from 1992. But they did exist. And we would actually play the games on the bus during these long trips. And we would run the consoles off of like a 9-volt battery. And I think you get about 45 minutes out of it, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
But with the TV, so there was actually kind of a kernel. That's why I made that video with the Genesis. I'm like, because I'll tell you what, I was at Goodwill. I was actually Goodwill Monona, and they had one of those screens. I guess, well, you guys may have seen the video, but I'll just reiterate it for your audience.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it was like July or August. So behind the glass, even they had this 1997 model pocket TV. Didn't have active matrix. It was like super twisted pneumatic. And they had it for $25. And I was like, nobody is going to buy that. But apparently because they just pull prices out of their butt at Goodwill.
Yeah.
So anyway, but then about a month later, I'm talking to my sister or my mom or someone, and they're like, oh, we figured out this up north cabin trip, but it's going to be your Uncle Bud, and then your mom, and then your sister and my niece. And then I was thinking, oh God, I remember when I was in high school, Bud would take me up to the cabin, like during the summer for like a week, and I would bring that rig and I would play Road Rash.
Yes.
And so it was like going up north with my Uncle Bud, plus seeing that TV at Goodwill. It reminded me of those junky rigs I made back in the 90s. And so I'm like, you know what I should do? I should buy that thing. I should buy that thing and recreate that rig. You know, because basically there's like this confluence of events that made me remember that ancient project. So that's kind of where I had my impetus. But then in 2000, I was working as a graphic artist, and I was also doing oh, wait, you guys are in Wisconsin. I used to do all the menu board layouts for Culver's restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. From 1998 to about 2000. When did I quit? 2004. Yeah. So and the weird thing was I didn't actually read the menus. I just laid them out. So I had no idea what was on the menu. it was you ever I know it's weird. You ever hear that thing? It was like the monks back in the medieval times who would like make copies of the Bible before the Gutenberg press. A lot of them were illiterate. Like they couldn't actually read, but they could reproduce the symbols or the glyphs to recreate books. And it was kind of like that for me. But anyway, so one of the things I would do, you know how the Culver's, the sign is a oval, like an oval ring?
Yeah.
So the reason that is because the first Culver's, which was in Sauk City, Craig Culver bought an old AMW. And he had no money. So to make the sign, he had to pull out the AMW sign and put his logo inside of the oval-shaped sign. That's why it's an oval. So it's true. So one of the things I would do, okay, that segue does have a point. One of the things that I would do is I would have to design the aluminum files for CNC machining to make those. Obviously, since they had like hundreds, well, back then they only had a couple hundred Culvers, but I would design the files that would be put onto the CNC machine so they could cut out the aluminum sections to make the rings, to weld them together to make a big oval sign. Right?
Yeah.
So that's where I got into like CNC layout, mechanical design. Even though I was a graphic artist, I was still doing that kind of stuff. And then I would hand it off to the welders. I didn't know how to weld at the time, but that wasn't my job. So yeah, we had that CNC machine. And so what I would do is like, I would stay late and cut things with it. And that's when I built my first Atari portable out of acrylic. We had this leftover slab of like inch thick acrylic, acrylic. And it was like basically just garbage, but we had it. And I was like, hey, are we going to use that for anything? They're like, no. So I actually used that to mill out the original Atari. So that's why I moved it into this room. If that thing fell more than 3 inches, it would probably shatter like a vase. But it's like we had this chunk of basically leftover garbage, and that's why we use it. Also, when I was still working there, if you remember my old stuff, I was really into brushed aluminum. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys, you obviously know what Wisconsin Dells is, right?
Yep.
So for those who don't know, Wisconsin Dells is Illinois' playground.
Yep.
It is the method by which Wisconsinites extract money from Chicagoans, for whom we have a term we won't repeat here.
Yep.
But anyway, they had all these signs they wanted, and they're still there. They say Dells River District. They're all over the Dells.
Okay.
And I want to say we built those in 2001 or 2000. Anyway, they're
there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're still there. They've actually held up pretty well. Anyway, if you drive, actually, there's a lot of my signage in the Dells. Did Moose Jaw, Wizard Quest, Sorrento's.
Yeah.
There's probably some other stuff I can't think of right now. Anyway, so those were designed by an architect, and architects are really weird. Architects and old school engineers are like very similar. It's like ones were the nerds in high school, and the other ones were the geeks. It's hard to explain. So the nerds turn into these weird architects. So anyway, we had all those signs, and the architect's like, well, I want them to be exactly 23 inches wide by 38 inches tall. And whatever the measurement was, it was like, well, they come in sheets of this by this. So if you change the dimensions by an inch, you could get way more out of the material. It's like, no, it has to be that size. So we ended up with mountains of scrap, 1/16 inch brushed aluminum. And so I would use the scrap for my projects as well. And the funny thing is they were hanging these sheets of brushed aluminum, which is quite heavy, off of these poles, and they were actually blowing in the wind and like falling down, and thankfully not on people, and bending. And then we actually had to, the architect had to pay for the project to be done twice because the architectural firm made the mistake. We actually had to take them all down and then sandwich them in coroplast, which is actually not coroplast, Alumilite. You know like that those signs like for yard signs or political signs. It's kind of like plastic cardboard.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a material called Alumilite, which is that. Technically, that's called the coroplast, the plastic stuff. And then we sandwiched the coroplast with the aluminum pieces to basically make a stiff sandwich. And those are still up to this day. So anyway, since there was probably almost literally tons of brushed aluminum scraps laying around just because of this weird architect, I was like, I think I'll use this. That's what got me hooked on brushed aluminum.
Nice. I mean, you hear about these things because I used to be in engineering staffing, like specifically working with like senior level engineers, and sometimes you hear about these crazy things. Like we've got more cold materials than we have in actually produced products. But whatever, that sounds like that's pretty normal. But But that's pretty funny though. I mean, unfortunately for
suddenly the Ted Mosby character in How I Met Your Mother makes way more sense as to why he was this weird eccentric douchebag who needed everything done a certain way. Like, never mind, you know what? I thought this was a character, but apparently this is true.
Yeah.
No. Well, I dealt with architects a lot when I was a graphic artist, and they're all just kind of weird. They're basically like weird hippie artists, but they have good jobs. And it's kind of like, you ever watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Danny DeVito becomes an art critic with the white wig.
Oh yeah,
he's like, crap. It's kind of like that. And then he sits there with his air conditioner. I love it.
Yeah. Derivative. This, I love this. Yeah.
And the thing is, architects think they're good visual designers. So sometimes you'll get them to design a sign, but it has no legibility whatsoever. They always love really thin letters and thin strokes. And it's like, nobody can read this.
That.
Exactly. But they're like, nope, that's what we want. So,
it's a sign. You have to be
what
right
is
next to it to read it. What are you thinking?
Highway Harry's. Ever seen those signs around?
Yeah,
that was one. That actually, I think that was the same firm that did the Dell signs. Oh, what was that guy's name? I don't know.
Yeah,
I always gave him shit though.
Out in Johnson Creek, I used to drive by that thing all the time, and I would look at that sign and go, "Why does that look that way?" Because it doesn't. It looks so strange. Like the letters look the same as like the little martini glass that they have on there. So at first, I was going like, I don't know if that's a letter or if that's something you drink out of. And over the years, I was like, okay, I get it now. But
later you get it. Yeah.
I used to have this philosophy. Well, the thing is, if the architect is like, that's what you want, then that's what you make. But my philosophy used to be, of course, back then we had like 19, 21-inch monitors if we were lucky.
Yeah.
Like you roll your chair back and you squint your eyes and look at your screen and think, can I still read this? Right. I see that. You know what? Actually, I see that now. So I guess we're just going to talk about graphics the whole time. Like with these modern pinball machines that have LCD screens on them, like from Stern, Jersey Jack, Spooky has it now. And like Spooky did it with their Halloween game. Because you've got some guy sitting at his desk like we are right now, and he's looking at a monitor that's like 18 inches from his face, right? And then he or she is designing these graphics, but it goes onto a pinball machine, which has this dinky ass 15-inch screen that's 4 feet from your face. And so many of these games have illegibly small text. It's like,
no.
You can't read this. Your prime demo is like 45 to 60 years old. It's middle-aged guys with diminishing eyesight. Come on. Well, I thought that with the Culvers, it's like you got these old people that go in there and they you can see them arc their heads forward and squint at the menu. And so like when there's new people coming in, I was like talking to new employees, I'm like, pretend you're an old person.
Yeah.
My other one was color is bullshit. Contrast is all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would see that on the web back in the 90s. He was like, oh, blue and red are two different colors. Let's use that for the text and background. It'll be fine.
You can't read anything.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Yeah, it needs...
colorblind people are going, what the hell am I looking at? What's going on here?
It's just a screen.
Oh, that reminds me. I was diagnosed as partially colorblind in 2000, like ages ago. And then the optometrist is like, well, you scored pretty poorly. What do you do for a living? I'm like, oh, I'm a graphic artist. And she's like, what? And I was only about 50%, so it's not too bad. As long as I've got enough light, it's fine. Yeah, but I guess, wow, see, I got really off tangent there. That went from like what? Ovals to architects. That could be a new podcast, from ovals to architects.
I mean, that could be like the name of your autobiography.
Yeah.
Ben Hack from ovals to architects and everything in between.
And you know what? I think I have a really good en route to the next topic, which is called I'll Order the Combo, because you've got the NES Atari, you have the Xbox 360, PS3, Wii U combination. And
oh God.
I
Some
wanted
all-in-ones here.
I wanted to re-explore the headaches that must have gone into creating these. If you're willing, if you've got enough beer for this,
we made the combo systems to troll people, because people will just. It's like the most unimaginative thing to ask. Can you combine X with Y? And so what I would do it would be like, fuck you, shut up. Here it is. I think we did a show episode with that. I think it was PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Wii or Wii U? I can't remember which one it was.
I mean, it's a forgettable system.
The scalp prices came down to like not too horrible. I actually just ordered an Xbox Series S, so I can obviously make it into some sort of portable. I want to try to make it handheld. Ooh. It's pretty small. It might work if I can figure out how to power it.
Anything's going to be more stylish than what it currently is that you do with it. So at least we've got that to look forward to.
Is it like a big cube or something?
It's just a giant.
Well, no, there's two of them. There's the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X. Also, whoever named those things, I cannot. Doesn't Microsoft have $1 trillion? Like, don't they have a marketing department? S and X? Not just because it sounds like sex, but the letters.
There's going to be an E somewhere. There's Xbox Series E, and you put them between the S and the X, and you have a good time.
The letters sound the same. Imagine you're a grandma calling GameStop. Yes, do you have the Xbox Series X? We want the S or the X? Yes. Oh, the X or the S like snake. Oh, you said sex, young man. You are a whippersnapper. The allegory I always, well, it's not an allegory. You ever hear that thing where it's like, we're landing on runway 5, 9, or 6 and stuff like that? So pilots say 9er because if there's enough distortion, 9 and 5 sound the same.
Yep.
Yeah, S and X. It's the Microsoft numbering department. 1, 2, 3, 95, 98, 2000, 7, 8, 10.
Oh my God, yeah.
So there's some stuff where we kind of do it to troll people, or like the disc changer. That episode is really popular. We took that old Sony CD changer. We made it work with an Xbox 360 because that was back before you could buy games digitally. Mm-hmm. That episode did really well. Like anything that's like just a weird kind of like, this is stupid kind of project usually does pretty well. Mm-hmm. Just because people like to laugh at it.
Yeah, weird works.
It was funny. That episode, there was when was that? 2013. There was a political candidate. I can't remember his name. I think he was Republican, but not like it really matters. But some political campaign actually grabbed a still photo of myself, because I like covered myself with chips and like controllers and make myself look like the ultimate slob for that episode. And they actually took a screen grab of that, and they're like, this is lazy millennials or something, even though I'm not a millennial. And I actually thought it was really funny, but we had to, politely ask them to take it down, because also they didn't have permission. So,
Oh, that's,
yeah. I want to say it was like Herman Cain or someone. I don't
Oh, Herman
But
Cain.
the thing was funny. It's like I'm not even a millennial.
Well, and that's not even the worst thing his campaign would put out there, because after the show, we occasionally stay around after the show, and I actually showed both Joe and our co-host Chelsea, who couldn't be here tonight. I showed them the Herman Cain cigarette smoking ad, if you remember that from his failed campaign. His actual campaign manager sits there and smokes a cigarette into the camera, and they've got this awful music just blaring during it.
Why are they smoking a cigarette into the camera?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Because
I have no
he's
idea.
a carefree man and a part of an old new generation.
When I steal images off the internet, I like to do it with a smooth taste of Pall Malls.
Yep. And the next time we talk, I'll explain how the pyramids were made to house grain.
Or were they power generators with the hydrogen isotopes or whatever? Yeah, so as far as the combo system, sometimes I kind of just did it for fun. I personally don't like them, obviously, because it's like, like whenever we would put feelers out there. Hey, what kind of projects would you like to see us do on the show? Which is good, because then we didn't have to come up with ideas ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
Every I would say conservatively, every third request was like, make a combination of this and this. There's one that Max and I, because most of us are still friends, Max and I still joke about to this day. It was, you should make a bionic arm that can make toast in any location. And we're like, what?
Like what?
So we probably like 8 years later, we still joke about that. We certainly didn't forget it.
I'm trying to think of the person who just goes through their entire life like, fuck, I wish I had toast right now. And I don't want to make it myself. If only I had a robotic arm.
I think
just make me toast.
I want to say maybe it was like when Metal Gear Solid 5 came out and he had that robot arm. I want to say maybe that's why they requested it.
I'm sorry. I'm actually crying. This doesn't happen to me.
Maybe the arm would have a geo blocker. I was like, sorry, you cannot make toast in Idaho. It's like, God damn it! I wish my robot arm could make toast wherever I am, regardless. It's like how they have different shows on Netflix in Australia.
It's region block for making toast.
Unless you rootkit your bionic arm. Are you tired of your bionic arm only being able to make toast in certain locations? Yeah.
Unfortunately, you used the PlayStation 4 for part of the programming, so it only lets you switch codes 3 times before it makes you stick with it.
Actually, the funniest thing that ever happened for me on the show. It was when we made the automatic dog door opener. The idea was, it was like, okay, it was gonna be a doggy door, but it had a lock on it, so like really skinny burglars couldn't break into your house or something. And how we did it was, like the way they have those buried electric dog perimeters, like you bury a wire and it zaps them.
Yeah, invisible fence.
Yeah, so we got.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do it? We combined 2 things. Oh yeah, we bought the proximity collar. We took out the zapper and we put it in. I think we put it in like an Adafruit key fob. So when the dog got close to the door, it would press a key fob button, which sent a signal to open the door, open a solenoid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was when Allison was still filming on the show. So her mom has like a standard poodle, which is like a big poodle.
Oh yeah.
And so Lola. So her mom brings Lola there to be the guinea dog. And we put the collar on it and we're trying to get it to go through the door. But of course, we didn't realize this would be really hard to make an animal do for the first time. And so we're filming it. We're just trying to get the shot, because the dog would walk up to the door, but then it would get scared when the door activated. And we didn't take that into account because we were dumb. And so anyway, Allison's mom is there. And we always joke that her mom is mean, right? And so we're trying to get the shot, and then Allison's like trying to gently coax the dog to go through the door, and then her mom was kind of like the Emperor from Star Wars, and she's just like, "Just push that dog through the door already." and then Allison like almost And Allison almost starts crying, and she's like, "I can't. It hurts my heart."
The mom just back there, do it.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, do it.
It was basically what it was like. And then I'm just over in the corner. I'm just dying laughing. It's so dark and funny. Oh, my God.
I've always been reduced to tears twice, Ben, and we've only been doing this for about a half an hour. Like, hats off to you.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm just trying to tell you the best stories that I can remember.
Well, okay, so this is one that I absolutely wanted to hear about. Was in 2015, you were entrusted with the Super NES CD-ROM restoration.
Ooh.
One of the only ones known to still exist. And
I think it was a year or two after that, but yes.
Oh, I wanted to get into your head on this one because I mean, what did that feel like in that moment, knowing that? I mean, you basically had like the footage to JFK's assassination, like you had like a historical thing in front of you that very few have seen. Like, what was that like?
Well, my main thought was if the shop's liability insurance would cover it if I destroyed it. That was my first thought. What did they get out of that? Like 300 grand or something?
Oh, I'd have to look back.
I think the guy who bought it actually emailed me. I believe it's the guy who founded pets.com back in the first .com craze.
Oh, yeah. The original .com bubble.
Yeah, it was like 2000 or 1999, and it was like, dancingbaby.com, oh, what's your startup? Oh, well, it's a website we can watch a dancing baby. Oh, okay, here's $20 million. How did I feel? Well, first of all, we met those guys at MGC 2016. And I want to say we did the repair later that fall. We had them come back. And they had it at MGC, and that was the MGC I almost missed because I actually had a TED Talk the same weekend. Well, TEDx.
Yeah.
But I was able to like fly back and get there in time for the after party, which is where I met those guys. And so the next day they were demonstrating it, but I don't even think they couldn't even get it to turn on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just watching them talk about it, and I was just like, oh my God, these guys don't know anything about this. It's like, this is it would be like, if a farmer found a Monet in his shed and then he used it to like milk his cows under it, like that's kind of but I mean, that's actually kind of a thing, like farmers finding like Monets and Degas and Picassos. It actually happens. Yeah. And it kind of made me think like that because it's the video game equivalent. And so we talked to those guys, and I think their main thing was, the one guy, Terry died. So I guess I can say whatever I want now. They kind of I think they wanted to see how much money they could get out of it. But I was like, oh man, you got to see if you can get this thing working. Like, it belongs in a museum, or, whatever they say. And so I think we had them bring it like twice. And I think it took me a couple tries, but I was mostly concerned about I didn't want to destroy it, obviously. Yeah. But the ironic thing is, like in the story, Terry. Yeah, Terry Diebold. I think he had it in a box of dishes, and it had been in his attic for like 3 years. The capacitor damage that happened was because it was stored in an attic. Mm-hmm. It was it was basically the way in which. So the problem with it was that it had a bunch of failed capacitors, quite a few.
Yeah.
The way they were damaged was by heat, not by age. Because at that time, that device was only 24 years old, mm-hmm. which isn't really old enough for capacitor. No. And obviously it's made by Sony, so they're not going to use shitty capacitors. So so ironically, by storing it in the attic, he caused damage to it. So had he not done that, they probably wouldn't need my help at all. But
okay, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was honored. I think really it's like I was in the right place at the right time, and also I was not afraid to work on it.
Yeah.
So and I've actually fixed a couple other rare consoles since then, like the RDI Halcyon. I did that last fall, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was that failed Laserdisc system. I think there's only like 4 of those in existence.
As I say, I've never heard of that one. Like, I remember Laserdisc and my high school Spanish teacher thinking this was the next big thing. Not just because physically the discs were huge, but
yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, it was the same company or one of the people involved with Space Ace. They made this. It was a video game console. You'd attach it to a certain model Pioneer Laserdisc, and it would basically play the Laserdisc games in your home. But it was really jankily made, and obviously it had like a speech synthesis chip, and it was supposed to be able to recognize speech. But it didn't have any video overlay. So compared to like the MSX, the Japanese computer, compared to the MSX Laserdisc implementation, it was pretty poor. But whatever, it doesn't matter if it's a piece of crap. It's super rare. And I actually had a guy. I can't remember if it was broken. I remember I had to figure out how to get the speech off of it because it wasn't even finished enough for the speech to be overlaid with the audio coming off of the Laserdisc. So there was actually ports in the back where it would have had RCA jacks. So I actually created a perf board that would fit into those jacks to basically complete it as close as I could to what it probably was intended to be. And actually some guy wants me to fix Super Graphics. Some guy wants me to fix FM Towns Marty. There's another really good. Oh God, someone had a Panasonic 3DO M2 they wanted me to try to fix. That I was a little nervous about that. I haven't actually followed up on that yet. So, but yeah, I've actually gotten a decent amount of requests, and I do it for free. If you send me something rare enough, as long as I can make a video about it, I'll do it for free. Because it's just an honor to do it, I think.
Which is ironically how we met years ago when you're making a call out for a Virtual Boy to come through your doors. Here we are with
and now it grew up into be a virtual man after it's passed through your hands.
I was a little boy, but now I am a man. There's some more Always Sunny for you. Yeah, but, I mean, what was the fix? Oh yeah, I had to 3D print a compression bracket for the adhesive ribbon cable mounts between the circuit board and the LEDs that actually make the display. Which is that's also what causes a lot of old TI graphing calculators to fail. I mean, the ribbon cable uses a conductive adhesive to attach to the boards, and basically it fails. And you can either replace it or you can just increase the pressure and make it have contact again.
Conductive adhesive just sounds like the dumbest smart idea ever. It's like, it's easy because it's adhesive, it's already there, and it's conductive. It'll be great, except if it conducts electricity and heats up because it's a conductor.
Well, they just do it to be cheap. The reason is always cheapness.
Oh yeah,
because connectors are expensive. Connectors are some of the most expensive things in a device.
No, this is like right up there with me explaining to my kids what military grade meant in my science class. And some of them like, just means it's really good. I'm like, it means it's really good for very cheap. So that tells you how good it actually is.
Well, it has a wider range of heat range. Heat ranges. Yeah, what I mean.
Well, this is basically why anyone who had an Xbox 360 for longer than a couple hours had a paperweight because of thermal paste just not keeping up for very long. And
it was also
a red ring of death.
Yeah,
Xbox 360 was also one of the first mass market lead-free electronic devices, so it was like a whole new world with how the reflow would work. And that was one of the reasons why you could fix it with an oven. You basically had to reflow it, but of course, lead-free solder takes a higher temperature to reflow. So, there's other issues as well.
Well, like the bracket on the board itself would.
Well, the cooling for the GPU was a joke. That's a perfect example of something that was designed first and engineered second. Make it look like this curvy eye, and then fit the electronics inside of it. That's why you had that joke of a heatsink on the GPU, which was under the disk drive, and then the fan allegedly was supposed to suck. That was another thing about that. The fan pulled air away from them and out the back. So which means if you didn't have enough airflow in the front, bring new air in, you would have a problem.
Yeah, basically, if you owned a cat, you were fucked after a while. It was just going to happen. and nothing to do with the cat actually screwing with it. Just hair. Just hair. Power of hair.
Yeah, I got a cat last year, actually, and I've noticed that too. Like, The hair just gets everywhere. It's ridiculous.
Yep, I have a corgi, and it's nothing but hair all over the apartment.
Yeah, I got my cat a Roomba for a brother and to suck up its hair. Although it didn't take him very long to figure out how to turn it on. So at 5:30 in the morning, after I don't let him, stay in my room because he tries to lick me awake. Guess what he goes and does?
Turns on the robot.
Like, I'll turn on my other friend. Yep. It's pretty crazy.
I had it in my notes to ask how you enjoyed being a cat dad, because isn't Bud the name of your cat? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of anniversaries, I got him the day after September 11th, September 12th. So I always remember when I got him.
Oh, man. Nothing quite like a national tragedy to remember a birthday, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's not his birthday. That's when
the adoption birthday.
When I got him, yeah.
Yeah.
He's been pretty good. He's pretty big now. I think he's probably close to 15 pounds. He's a pretty big cat.
Wow. Are you giving him quite a few greenies then?
He's not size. He's not really fat. He's just big.
He's a bulky guy.
Okay, but that's what my parents said for a long time. And then we look back at the pictures and we go, how could you love me? How could you let this happen?
I think the last time I weighed him, he was 13 pounds. So I would bet he's pushing 15. He's usually pretty good. There's I won't let him in this room because this room actually, from the episode where we made the automatic plant rotator, that plant is still in here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that plant is like 6 foot tall now.
That's awesome.
And it used to have 3 stalks before Bud attacked it. So now it's down to 2. Oh, it's really sad. He ripped one of the stalks in half, but then it started to grow leaves back. But then he would eat the leaves, so that whole stalk basically died because it couldn't get photogenesis or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically don't let him in here. There's too much room to destroy. But he likes the Roomba. But he's also really friendly. I guess if you have an orange male cat, they're either super friendly or they stay away from him. No matter who comes over, if it's someone he's never met before, he just runs right up to him no matter what. So he's really friendly.
Yeah, I'd say orange tabbies, man. Like you said, they're either your best friend or nah, dude, I'm cool on my own. I'm gonna hang out over here. You do you.
Or they're advertising national brands of cat food. I mean,
they could be doing that, or they hate Mondays and love lasagna.
Yeah,
I will admit, I wish Bud had a switch where I could turn off his needy mode. If I open my door right now, he'll be laying against the door jamb. When you're in college and you put down the towels so people can't smell the pot. You could do that with Bud. He lays against the door outside just like that. I guarantee that's where he is right now.
So. Oh my gosh.
Okay, but here's something, Ben, that I this is not meant to be humorous at all, but it probably will come across that way. I think he's needy because he wants to know where he can find your independent films. You mentioned it briefly.
Oh.
But I mean, you came out. I mean, we're talking about films that have some pretty awesome antagonists in the form of a giant, possum.
Possumous Man and the sequel Possumous Woman. Yeah, it was the first gender flipped movie long before it was popular in Hollywood.
I was gonna say you got people like Spielberg. We've got, you just mentioned a couple of your favorites. I think your name should be up there. I happened to see some of these a few years ago when you had them posted, and I actually really enjoyed these films, man. Seriously,
there's some of them are on YouTube. What was it? I tried to post Port Washington because everyone asks about that one, but I want to say Warner Brothers is the worst. Well, Warner Brothers and Nintendo. No, Warner Brothers is worst when it comes to if you put up a video that has any Warner music in it, they won't just demonetize it. They will the video will be gone.
Oh, wow.
And so I think we had a song in there from them. They actually when we did the Alice Cooper pinball machine, Spooky Pinball made a promo video for it and put it on YouTube, and Warner Brothers struck down the video.
Wow.
Because Alice Cooper is through Warner Music Publishing. Even though the machine was fully licensed, it still got hit, and they actually had to manually get WB to unban it. So
wow.
So
that's crazy.
I think Possumous Man, Possumous Woman, I think the 2 adventure movies, I think Lizard to Death. So most of them are on YouTube. Just go to Ben Heck Hacks and dig around. You'll find them.
I saw Lizard of Death actually shortly after I moved up here. So I didn't live in Wisconsin. Yeah, I didn't live in Wisconsin until I was born here but not raised, military brat. So in 2006 I moved back and I found it not too much longer before I found your initial YouTube channel. So
you were looking for it, or how did you come across it?
I've got friends in college that happened to find a lot of independent films, and this would kind of lead into me finding more indie films just by chance. And so if I could find a film and someone goes, "Hey, I just watched this," I'd go, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." So yeah, here I am watching Lizard of Death, and then when I found your YouTube channel years later, I went, I never made a connection. I seriously did not make the connection. I had no idea. So
what did you think of it?
I think your movies are great, and this isn't just me going like. I just think it's hilarious because it's reminiscent of like Trey Parker, for example. Trey Parker, when he was in film school, he took we actually covered this in one of our episodes. How it was a Giant Beavers show of Southern Sri Lanka. I think it was the name of one of his early films.
Maybe.
And just these creative ideas of taking things that you wouldn't typically see in a movie and having an idea around it. And I mean, I think it's awesome and hilarious. The reason why I mentioned the Lizard of Death specifically is because Joe's a huge Godzilla fan.
Do love me some big old monsters.
I was going to say,
yeah.
Lizard of Death, Joe. I mean, you would be right at home watching this movie. Like this would be total you. So I could see you enjoying this.
I probably would. Yeah, big like. So Lizard of Death, was this? Did you get a dude in a suit, or how did you do Lizard of Death?
No, it was like a puppet. I want to say with someone's hand up its ass.
I mean, that was the first Gods of the movie. There was a dude with a hand up a lizard's ass for a few scenes.
I do think that was probably the best one that I made. I think it's probably it is my personal favorite. Why did we do that? I mean, you'll be shocked to know I'm a big Mystery Science Theater fan.
Oh, nice.
So we had done some indie films before, like those action movies, and I thought, has anyone ever tried to make like an old bad movie, right?
Yeah.
But what really sucked is the same year we did that was the same year that what was that other movie? Someone else did it the same year we did. Like it was like Destination Mars. Is that the name of it? You ever hear that one?
I can't say I'm familiar with that one.
Let me just Google it real quick. I think that's what it was called. Destination Mars. Maybe it's something else. Or what's another one? Like The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. So we did that, but then someone else. There was another one made that same year, and we were really heartbroken because we thought we'd done it first. And of course, everyone remembers the other one, except for you guys, apparently. We did take it to the Wisconsin Film Festival, so that was cool. In 2000, the fall of 2000. Yeah, but the thought was, could we make a 1950s like a period film bad movie? And then we just came up with a really simple plot. But my big how old was I when I did that? 24. I was pretty young. The big thing I wanted to do with that was I wanted to make it. I didn't want it to be like a joke. Like I can't remember what the other movie. Yeah, Destination Mars or something. I don't know. But that movie, for instance, there was a scene, because there's always a scene where someone's talking to a scientist, right, in the laboratory.
Yeah.
And every time it cut back to this other guy, the clock on the wall would change, right? And it's like that was the joke, but what we thought about was like that wouldn't happen. Like in a bad movie, the clock would never change. It wouldn't continue to change. It wouldn't change by 6 hours. So we tried to avoid that kind of stuff completely. We were like, okay, we're trying to think about what makes the movie bad. And it's basically you just make a really dumb, cheesy movie, you give it terrible dialogue. Like if you watch like like if you watch like the commentary for Ed Wood, which actually is my favorite movie. The guys who wrote that movie, I think they did like Child's Play or one of those like bratty kids movies from like the early 90s.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how they were writing it, and then it kept getting rewritten, and then it got taken away from them. And then when they went to see it in the theater, it was like, of course, it was completely different. It was worse. And that experience is what actually wanted to make them write a script about Ed Wood, like why a movie is bad, like rather than because it usually comes from like a place of like earnesty. Like have you seen Birdemic, for instance?
Oh yeah, yes, yes.
That guy's clearly like really loves the environment and stuff, and because so he was trying to tell like an environmental message, which I guess is good, but the earnesty combined with terrible filmmaking is what makes that movie so bad. So the thing is, when you purposely try to make a bad movie, you usually don't do a very good job. So we were just trying to make it really honest. So yeah, but it was fun because we had like a little model city, and we had like some old cars and hubcaps and old timey costumes, and it was fun to make. I think we did the whole thing in like 4 months.
Oh wow, that's and that's why I thought was cool, because I remember reading into this once. When you ended up doing the Possums Woman, wasn't that mostly like improvised? You guys didn't actually do.
We had no script.
No script. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had. I think we had 2 storyboarded sequences, because my buddy Mike, who plays like the dumb redneck guy, he was like, I'll only do a sequel if there's no script. And I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah, that's the deal. We can work that.
But it worked. So basically, there was an outline, and I think there were storyboards for some of it, but most of it we just went off the outline, and then it somehow worked. And that one we shot super fast, because we did Port Washington after Legend of Death, and that took us like 3 years to finish, which always happens with independent films. And I'm like, fuck this. I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes. So when we did Possums Woman, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take everything I learned from making Port Washington and not do it. And yeah, I think we cranked that out in like 10 weeks or something.
Wow.
We made it incredibly quickly. That one was fun because I'd just seen Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Crystal Skull or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And Spielberg was like, oh yeah, it's going to be practical. It's got practical. And then that movie's a big CGI shitfest.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah. And now we got Indiana Jones with a CGI indie apparently being made. But I'd just seen that movie, and I was like, ugh. So I think Possums Woman only has, I want to say 3 green screen shots. 3 green screen shots, and I want to say like 60 or 70 optical effects. That's it. Wow. Everything else was done in camera.
Wow.
It was just fun to do it that way. That was actually the first movie we shot in 720p progressive scan, 24 frames a second with the Panasonic P2 camera. So it was also our first completely solid state digital movie as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
I was gonna say I've never gotten past like just a handheld movie creation before, but I thought it was really cool that you kind of wove this in, that you're always kind of doing these things behind the scenes, and the fact that I saw this first, didn't even know it was yours until years later, and I think it just kind of speaks to the amount of creativity you have and the amount of range you have and just your projects and what you focus on.
Thanks.
So yeah, seriously, like it's not something I was expecting. I'll put it that way. Like I wasn't expecting to see a movie from you and then and then meet you years later because of a Virtual Boy.
Well, fun fact, we were going to shoot Possums 3 this year, but we pushed it back because of unprecedented times.
Oh yeah.
So we are actually going to finish that trilogy. It's Possums Men is the final chapter.
Ooh.
Yep. So it might not. The only reason we picked 2021 is because it was 13 years between the first one and the second one, so we just added 13.
Yeah.
We actually shot a flashback for it in 2010.
Oh.
So yeah. So
awesome.
yeah, so the gag was, because even then we're like, okay, 2021. It's like my buddy of mine who's like a Rolls-Royce engine technician now. like, okay, we need to explain how you survived between the movies. So we filmed him like surviving in the wilderness, and then he breaks a Hootie and the Blowfish disc. No, he died in the first movie, which is 1995. So yeah, he takes a Hootie and the Blowfish CD and he makes it into a spear, and then he like throws it at a chickmunk. And we filmed that in 2010. So I'm like, that way, when we do the flashback in the sequel, 2021, you'll look younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have that footage. It's ready to go. I mean, I think it's only 1080p, but whatever. We'll put like a blur on it or something.
Yeah, why not? You can put like some kind of effect over it to make it look like it's old, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A buddy of mine and this other guy, we actually were developing another movie for a couple years. I think it's still on ice. Netflix might do it. We're not sure yet. My buddy's doing like some Lifetime movies in the meantime. But we basically, again, it's something you would never, ever guess. It's like one of those like woman in a haunted house kind of movies.
Yeah.
So we actually have, we never had the working title was Dirt. But it was actually, the premise came from the eBay Ghost in a Jar listing from like 20 years ago on the internet. So we actually use that, but it's actually like a serious horror movie. And so we actually made a complete script and everything. We just we just never got it off the ground. And then of course unprecedented times happened.
Yeah.
We were looking to do it in Australia because they had like stupidly good film tax breaks, which is like fuck the taxpayer kind of tax breaks, kind of like Georgia has. Yeah, I was like, if you spent $1 million on a production in Australia, the government would write you a check for $400,000.
Holy shit!
Wow. It was insane. Yeah. But so anyway, probably haven't seen the last of my movies, but it has been a long time since I've worked on one, which does kind of make me sad.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going to go with this, was talking about unprecedented times and COVID and everything, because after you left the Ben Heck show, right? And I mean, it's not like you didn't stop creating like modded products and things like that. So interested to dig into that a little bit, because I keep seeing the single-handed PS4 controller. Like I keep coming back to
Xbox.
That.
So I started doing that in 2006. It was this guy who just got back from Iraq, and he got his arm blown off by a improvised bomb or whatever they call those things. Yeah. And he's like, I got back home and I realized I can't play video games anymore. And I was like, he's right. You can't do that without only one hand. So I made him a prototype, and then I put it on my page or I don't know where. I probably put it on my website at that time. And then I started getting more and more requests for those. And I just kept getting requests just endlessly. And I was doing that as well in the back. Like when I was making Possums Woman, I would have also been making those controllers. Actually, what was it? The movie, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. I actually made them some props for that movie. It was kind of based off the single-handed controller work. Mm-hmm. So actually, I think that prop that I made for that movie paid for about 80% of the budget of Possums Woman. Wow. Fun fact, because it was the same. It was the same year it was 2008. So there was a time, probably like the early 2010s. I was doing the show. I was developing those pinball machines. I was also building those controllers. I was also building testing equipment for the video game industry. I was doing all those things at once, and it was ridiculous. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, I was making a ton of money, but so then Felix was one of my coworkers on the show. I actually had him build those controllers for a while, right? Because he was like in college and stuff. I'm like, oh, Felix needs more money more than I do. But then when we stopped doing the show, Felix went off and did his own thing. And so then I started doing the controllers again. So I actually still do this. I actually built 2 of them just today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Actually, last year, I guess because people were playing video games more because they had nothing else to do. Last year I built 127 of them. It was like the most ever built in 1 year.
Yeah. It's believable. I mean, and with COVID, and I was actually going to ask you about the material shortages, and if that's played a factor in delaying any of that? I mean,
well, it's integrated circuit shortages more than anything. So last year, like, I guess to dial it back. So when I stopped doing the show, I basically was like, screw this. I don't want to I was working so hard for most of my 30s. But I had a lot of, I was pretty well off. So I'm like, I'm not going to work this hard anymore, at least not for a while. But what I would do is I would still make those controllers. And then I do latency testing equipment for the video game industry. I'm doing one right now for Microsoft. They've bought a ton of them. And then I also was doing some pinball stuff, which I'm getting back into now. I got like gaming development, a Chicago gaming company, and then I'm probably gonna do another one that's spooky as well. They should be pretty cool. But anyway, so yeah, I kept doing that the whole time, and then last year, I don't know, for whatever reason, I sold quite a few of them. I'm working on a Switch version as well, but I need to do a 3D scan of the back of the controller, and I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. So, yeah,
cool. And that was actually going to lead into where we typically will wrap things up, is to kind of give you the floor, because for folks that may have saw one of your earlier videos and maybe they're finding it again now, interested about where you're going next, what kind of projects you've got in the hopper, and where folks can find you.
Yeah, well, if you want to buy something from me or email me, it's benheck.com, BENHECK. .com. I'm so used to spelling my last name to like whoever on the phone, like HECKENDORN. So then, if you want to watch the Ben Heck Show, which the channel was renamed into Element 14 Presents, the name of the sponsor. So that's on YouTube as Element 14 Presents. And so I did that show from 2010 to 2018. And then if you go on YouTube and look for Ben Heck Hacks, that's what I renamed my personal channel, which didn't really have much on it. And then, of course, there was nothing on it. There's some stuff about pinball development. But then in 2018, I started putting videos on there again. And it's mostly electronics based, but sometimes they'll be like cooking, because I don't give a shit. Yeah,
your channel, you do you.
Exactly. And I don't. My YouTube is not like my source. I make some money on it, just like some fun money, but I don't give a shit, if it makes money or not. So I just put whatever on there. But I just did a video, a really expensive old HP calculator, and it was kind of like a right to repair thing, where it's like, it's not just Apple. There were products in the past that were like impossible to open up, and the video's about that, like a calculator from 30 years ago. So you can check out that stuff there. And then, also one of the things I've done recently was I did the firmware operating system for the new spooky pinball machines. So they're two new games. They made one based off Halloween, the movie, and then Ultraman. So the first batch of boards paid for my new driveway. So that's nice.
Ooh.
Nice. But that's just kind of like boring code stuff. But so then, I am working on, because I had my America's Most Haunted Pinball Machine, so I'm working on designing a new mass market pinball machine. I probably won't see it until like 2022, but it is in the works. So I look for that down the road too, and then I can take that money and buy. I don't know what I even buy with it. I don't really need it. I just want the money. I just like collecting money. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a good hobby. I can't think of a time we have laughed that hard with a guest on this show, which really is saying a lot, because we've had a lot of really good times with the guests we've had on our show, whether it be from other podcasts, voice actors, etc. We've just had really, really good times in here. But man, Ben Heck just had us rolling so many times throughout tonight's conversation. And there's even stuff that we edited out that may come back in a bonus episode or two of experiences that Ben Heck has had with other people. And just, what a talented individual Ben Heck is. From integrated circuits to independent films, the guy just kind of does everything, which is super cool. So please make sure to check him out at Ben Heck Hacks on his YouTube channel, which, could be some hacking or it could be cooking, whatever Ben's in the mood for. And if you want to check out some of that older stuff we talked about, where he made regular consoles into portable consoles, that is on Element 14 Presents, also on YouTube. And I hope you will be excited for, or maybe even check out, his pinball machines he's got coming out with Spooky Pinball and his own independent pinball ideas. And as for us here at the Dissection crew, we've got a lot of really great stuff coming up too. We have some great guests lined up for October. We have more original ideas that we plan on covering before season 1 wraps up. And we also have a really great creator spotlight coming up. We're going to be focusing on some of our favorite content creators. So until then, just keep on coming back, keep listening to us, because you never know what we're going to do next. It could be more TV shows, could be more video games, it could be Mark talking about his socks for 1 hour and 15 minutes. But you just won't know that unless you keep on dissecting.